sworn. Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Ethan Collier, and I'll be chairing today's meeting of the Chattanooga-Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission. Before we get started, I had a couple things I want to go over. There have been some slides that have been playing overhead for the last couple of minutes that kind of walk people through how our meetings go. Planning Commission's received this packet in the mail a little over a week ago, and they've had the opportunity to review it in advance of today's meeting. So at times during our meeting, we do move pretty quickly. So make sure you follow along. That you have a copy of the agenda there in front of you and follow along so that you know where we're at in the agenda. In each case, what I'll do is I'll read off the case number and an address associated with the case, and I'll ask if there's any opposition present. If you're here and you have questions or concerns, or you're in opposition, please make sure to raise your hand when I ask if there's any opposition present. In cases where we don't have any opposition and we have a staff recommendation to approve, we'll move real quick through those. But where we do have people here from the community that are opposed or have some sort of questions, we'll slow down, and what we'll do is we'll hear first from staff. They'll present the case so that everybody here can see what it is we've seen. And then we'll hear from the applicant. The applicant will have 7 minutes to present the reason for their request. There may be some questions back and forth between Planning Commission and the applicant. And then we'll have an opportunity for opposition to speak. During that time that we have for opposition, the total time allotted for opposition is 9 minutes. So what I will ask is that if you want to speak and you're here in opposition, for you to get out of your chair and line up on the right side of the room over here so that I can see how many people want to speak, because we do stick very closely to that 9 minutes. And from time to time, I'll have to interrupt somebody so that everybody who wants to speak can speak. It's most helpful for Planning Commission if, as you're standing there and you're hearing opposition talk, if you're listening and you're hearing somebody else say what you were planning on saying, then you don't necessarily need to repeat it. It's not most helpful to Planning Commission to hear the same thing repeated to us over 9 minutes. So it's helpful if there's new information being presented. When you come up to the microphone, make sure this red light's on. It should be on. State your name and address for the record, and then ask us any questions you want to ask us. But all the dialogue that happens today will be between the person at the microphone here at the podium and the Planning Commission. So if you have questions for the applicant, direct those to us. We'll make sure to pass those along, or for staff, direct those questions to us. And then after we've heard from opposition, everybody take their seat. The applicant will come back up to the podium, and we'll have 2 minutes to respond to anything that has been presented by the opposition. Then we'll take action on it. Most of these cases will go on to City Council and the County Commission. So make sure to follow along those dates so that you can know where they're at, when they're at. Also, today is one of my dear friends' last Planning Commission meetings, or so he thinks. Councilman Darren Ledford here has been serving with us for probably on and off 7 years. If you add it all up, probably 7 years. You've been on Planning Commission with us. And I just want to say that he's done an exemplary job of representing the city and his district really, really well. And you know, we've had numerous, before it was you, I think it was a rotating seat. But we've had a lot of elected officials serve on Planning Commission over the years that I've been doing this job. And I don't think anybody comes more prepared to a meeting ever than Councilman Ledford. He knows the zoning code. He's studied it. He's prepared. He's working, he's listening, he's engaged, and he will certainly be missed. Now, I will say the city mayor and the county mayor can appoint to this board, and I would just say, if y'all get the opportunity, it should be Councilman Lidford as soon as possible, because he will be missed, and he brings a lot of value to our city, our county, and his constituents. So,
I did want to say one thing. I do think that the fact that he has taken a rotating seat and made it his own might be a testament to. I'm not sure that's a good thing or not. I think he might have been the only one that would stay on it long enough to do it. So, but we are grateful for that for sure. And I would say this for all the rest of us, that Darren's made an example of communicating and making sure that we communicate with the people in the community. He's really very, very, very adept at doing that, and make it as an example to the rest of us of how he communicates with the community. Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Maybe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to add on to what you and Commissioner Payne had mentioned. The councilman has set the bar very high for all of us. I know that I've personally learned a ton by watching him on this planning commission, and appreciate the work that he has done for a number of years here. I don't think I've ever worked with somebody that is quite as adept at building compromise in some very complicated and controversial issues. So thank you for your time, and you will definitely be missed.
Thank you. Are you going to ruin it? All those things we've said that are positive, we're going to take them all back before the agenda. Thank you. Before we jump into the agenda, I wanted to go over a couple highlights and then get a sense of who's here and what cases you're here for. First off, we only have one item under old business, and that is a mandatory referral, and it's at unaddressed Kelly's Ferry Place and Kelly's Ferry Road. That is being removed from the agenda. It was withdrawn by the county and will not be heard today. So if you're here in regards to that, that will not be heard today. And then, Mr. Schultz, was there something else? Was there I guess item 11 here under new business?
Yes, I think the applicant wishes to defer, but I think I've talked to several opposition folks. They would like to speak if with your permission today about this case instead of deferring it.
Okay.
But the opposition is here, I believe. It's what most people are here for, is this case.
Okay. If you're here in opposition, it's item 11 on our agenda. It's case 2025-0047. It's the 2400 block of Leanne Circle and the 2500 block of Doolittle Street. If you're here in opposition to that case, can you raise your hand? Okay, fantastic. Thank you. And is the applicant present or somebody representing the applicant? Okay. So we will move that to the top of the agenda so that you fine folks can get back to work. So, Mr. Schultz?
So you're going to do that before the subdivisions?
Yeah, if we
Okay.
could.
Sure, let me get
Thank
to
you.
it. Probably making everybody sick.
And if you're
Go
here in
through it quick.
opposition and you wish to speak, can you come up to the podium?
Okay, this is case 2025-47. This is an Eastdale community. This is a request for a planned unit development for a mixed-use development. It's roughly 190 acres and 0.4 acres in size. We're proposing a mixture of uses from commercial to live work to townhomes, multi-unit and cottage development. The square footage of gross commercial in this area is proposed at 43,500 square feet. You can see on the screen roughly almost 1,800 units in residential. That's made up of 30 live work, 470 townhomes, 993 multi-unit, and 288 cottage units. That's a density of 9.4. This is not a rezoning request. The underlying zoning, which is RN16, CC, and RN2 will remain the same. This is the first application we have for our new PUD tool, so we're working through this as staff, trying to make sure we got everything correct when reviewing this. A portion of this site was rezoned from C2 to C2 in 1984. You see it on the screen, and then the equivalency mapping and now of that property is CC. In 2024, like December 2024, the applicant did submit a request for a commercial mixed-use zone. There was opposition to Planning Commission. The applicant staff recommended to deny that request, and the applicant withdrew that request at the Planning Commission. It's a vacant piece of property. To the north is vacant land. To the south is single unit detached. To the west is single unit detached and institutional, a church. And to the southeast is vacant land, and further south is single family. So this is primarily a single family detached neighborhood. Here's a view of the site from Tunnel Boulevard. View of the site from Garner Road. This property butts several right-of-ways. Another view of the site from Garner Road. You can see in this picture here, it's got some topography issues. This is a view of a single unit residential on Garner Street, or Garner Road. This is a view of the site from Shamrock Drive. You see this road dead ends. You can see the sign. That's where the property is located. And this is the view of the site from Doodle Street. And this is north of the site, which is industrial use. And this is south of the site. Again, see more single-family detached dwellings. This is east of the site along Doolittle Street and MacArthur Avenue. Again, more single-unit detached dwellings. And this is west of the site on Tunnel Boulevard. This is the church that's across the street. This area is one of our older plans. It's in the Eastdale Area Plan, which was adopted in 1998. And it recommends open space and floodplain protection because of the South Chick Creek that comes through there. Again, it's a very older, one of our older plans. And it says also has a limit of commercial zoning to major intersections. This is the PUD plan that was submitted with the application. I'll never give everybody time to look at this. But on the left-hand side, you can see the tables, if you will. It's roughly 43,500 square feet of commercial scattered throughout this site. Roughly 1,781 residential units. Again, a mixture of live, work, multifamily, cottage court developments. It doesn't appear there's going to be any single family. It's going to be a HPR style development. Other than the bottom legend, you can see the height in terms of stories. It goes from 1 story up to 4 stories. And the 4 stories, I know it's hard to see on the screen, but they're sort of like the lighter blue color areas. So it has a mixture of taller buildings scattered throughout this entire site, as well as a mixture of uses scattered throughout this entire site. So there's the site, the PUD plan that's submitted with this request. Again, we have a new PUD tool. This is much different than what we've had in the past because now we have a lot of different zones that fulfill different development proposals. But the PUD, it's intended to encourage and allow more creative and flexible development of land than is possible under the current zoning regulations, and shall only be applied to those applications that provide amenities to the city. On the screen here, the underlying zone, dimensional design, and use regulations apply to the PUD. So, for example, the RN16 and the CC and RN2, those dimensional standards and uses apply to the PUD unless specifically modified through the approval process by the Planning Commission and City Council. So one easiest way to think about this is the applicant through the PUD basically gets to write their own new zoning code, if you will, in terms of dimensional standards, if approved by the City Council and Planning Commission. Section 3879 of the PUD requirements has review criteria that staff and Planning Commission are to use for the review. I don't have all these in the staff presentation, but all of them are in your staff report. I'm going to hit the highlights. Again, the underlying zoning dimensions hold unless an exception is granted by the Planning Commission and City Council. It also says in the zoning code, a planned unit development may allow uses that are currently not allowed in the zone if such uses enhance the overall concept of the PUD plan and meet the standards of item 2 below. Well, item 2 below has 5 things you're supposed to look at in terms of the exceptions. Does the PUD enhance the overall merit of the planned unit development? Does it promote the objectives of both the city and the development? enhance the quality of design of the structures in the site plan, will not cause excessive adverse impact on neighboring properties, and is compatible with adopted city land use policies and area plans. So those are the criteria we're looking at when we have PUDs. This is supplied by the applicant. Again, the underlying zoning holds unless the applicant asks for deviations or modification. That's what the applicants have in front of you today. He has 3 zonings on this property: CC, RN2, and RN16. RN16 is primarily a single-family detached use zone. RN2 is single-unit detached, but it also allows single-unit attached and 2-unit dwellings. Looking at the screen on the right-hand side, which is the RN16, you can see the applicant is requesting a lot of different uses allowed in that zone that's not allowed normally in RN1 zone. RN1 zone, by this approval, the PUD would open up to 2-unit dwellings, 3-unit dwellings, 4-unit reception facility, solar energy systems, wind energy systems, farms, mobile food vendors, outdoor seating, industrial for artists and crafts, live entertainment. Same thing with RN2. The applicant's asking for a lot more uses that are normally permitted in the RN2. You can see those on the screen are highlighted in black. And then the commercial, it goes down a little more, but the area in green are zones, are uses that are already allowed in that zone. So the things in black are what the applicant is asking for that are not permitted currently in the zones, which he can ask for in the PUD. If anybody has any questions, feel free to stop me. The applicant also is asking to amend the development standards, specifically of RN16. Basically, at the end of the day, the applicant wishes to do a horizontal property regime. There will not be any lot lines in this development. It'd be one big lot. RN1 currently has a 6,000 square foot lot size. The applicant is asking not to have lot sizes in this PUD, not having any lot width minimums, and also reducing the maximum building coverage. One of the things that stood out to staff really was the maximum building height. Currently, RN16 is limited to height of 35 feet. The applicant is asking to go to 65 feet throughout this entire site. The setbacks are more of an urban style setback the applicant's asking for. So that's a change, as well as parking. You can see the parking column in the middle. That's the current RN16 standards. On the right is what the applicant's asking this body grant a modification to. So it's putting urban standards into the suburban area. Planning Commission in the zoning code has some standards that Planning Commission is to look at. We've looked at these and tried to review and come up with a recommendation. There's quite a few of these. But the proposed planned unit development uses and development form is compatible with other property in the vicinity. That's one thing they're supposed to look at. This proposed PUD will introduce non-residential and multi-unit residential uses into a primarily low-density residential area. There's some nuisance concerns with that. We'll also add commercial uses in the primary residential area. There's some concerns with that in terms of truck deliveries and noise and height of the buildings. So that is a concern. The second question that we're looking at in terms of review of this, the proposed planned unit development uses and development form is compatible with other property in the vicinity. Again, as I stated earlier, most of this area is primarily single family, 1 to 2 story dwellings. The applicant here is encouraging or wants to have multi-unit development as well as commercial uses, as well as urban style setbacks. So that's a change into this area because the perimeter properties have lot sizes and lot frontage and suburban style setbacks. The proposed PUD and development form is compatible with other property in the vicinity. There are concerns with increasing the intensity of development on the perimeter of this site, which again is low density or low residential neighborhoods. What's important to note here is the applicant proposed 65-foot story buildings. These are typically what you see in the core of the city or along interstate interchanges. You wouldn't see them typically in suburban parts of the city. The proposed planned unit development will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property. It's hard for staff to answer this question until more information has been provided by the applicant. It's not enough detail for us to be able to answer that question. There is provision for adequate utilities and infrastructure, drainage, off-street parking and loading, pedestrian access, and all other necessary facilities. We did receive a lot of comments from city staff. They have a lot of concerns A lot of that was from wastewater, stormwater, and transportation. They have concerns with the proposed amount of commercial space and the number of residential units based on the current infrastructure system. One of the things to note, again, this is a HPR type development, or everything will be on one lot. Typically what happens once zoning cases are approved, there's a review phase for you go into subdivision plats where city staffs are involved in that review. You bypass that through HPR. There's no review in terms of plats on that. So staff also had concerns with no traffic study being submitted with this PUD. There is a provision for adequate vehicular ingress and egress designed to minimize traffic congestion upon public streets. The Planning Commission and or City Council may require a traffic study to provide evidence that the circulation system is adequate. We did receive comments from Transportation Department that were concerns with the increase in density and proposed commercial uses and the impact this will have on the existing road network in this area, primarily around Tunnel Boulevard. Again, staff recommends that the Planning Commission require the applicant to submit a traffic impact study prior to the application being placed on City Council agenda, and work with CDOT on what that requirement would be in terms of traffic study. The location and arrangement of structures, parking areas, walks, landscaping, lighting, and other site design elements are compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and adjacent land uses. Staff does have concerns with location of design elements along the PUD perimeter, near the adjacent single-family neighborhoods, and the impact and the increase in density will have on the surrounding neighborhood. The final question is the consistency of the proposed amendment and the comprehensive plan and any adopted land use plan policies. As I stated earlier, this is in the Eastdale plan, which recommends recreation/open space, so that would not support high density and urban style development at this location, nor would it support commercial. Here's a closer view of that, again, that plan from 1998. We're also undertaking a new plan for Plan Chattanooga. It's not been adopted yet. We also looked at that. That place type recommendation you can see is suburban residential, which is primarily low intensity, single family detached residential. It doesn't recommend commercial at this location. Also on Plan Chattanooga, you can see on this site, it doesn't recommend any commercial or nodes. On the site highlighted in the red circle, most of those are down at Tunnel Boulevard or on Brainerd Road where you have intersections. That's where most of the town center and village centers are being proposed. And this site is also not located in any pedestrian focus area based on transportation projects. So there are no recommended transportation improvement projects in the vicinity of this site. So the plans, both the adopted plan and the proposed plan we're working on now, doesn't support this intensity or commercial development at this location. We did receive, again, comments from Land Development Office. This PUD plan is the controlling document that we will utilize for many years during the development of this site. The Land Development Office, as well as staff, felt there was not enough detail provided to properly review during permitting and land disturbing permit phase and to be able to enforce the requirements of this development, since no plat will be submitted. Chattanooga Wastewater Division also had concerns with a project of this size in terms of sewer capacity. They won't know anything until average daily and peak flows have been submitted for this development, so that's a concern with infrastructure. Fire Marshal had concerns with development, providing enough ingress and egress for this number of units going out on Tunnel Boulevard. Transportation Department basically is recommending a transportation impact study be required so they can make some recommendations and guidance based on that. Right now, they have nothing to go with. Stormwater Division provided comments that there is area has a history of known flooding issues. Some water quality buffers will need to be provided, and this area again has been known to flood quite a bit, and so they do have some concerns. Again, staff is very supportive of a neighborhood revitalization of the Eastdale community, a mixed-use planned unit development that provides a range of housing options and small-scale commercial amenities and parks and open space could be a valuable addition to the neighborhood. But there are some concerns, and I'll go through those. Again, city departments felt there was needed more information to be provided to understand the impact on adjacent properties and infrastructure. The proposed development plan, including building location, uses, dimensional standards, and subdivision of land and relying on private infrastructure presents significant risk to the city, as the applicant has not provided enough information regarding the proposed infrastructure improvements in terms of roads, sewers, and stuff like that. The submitted development plan does not have enough detail for the land disturbing and building permit staff to review and enforce as submitted. Again, there is concerns with some of the uses not being properly defined. Also some concerns with incompatibility with neighboring residential uses. For example, the applicant's proposing a live entertainment venue, although not defined by the applicant, but assumed by staff to be similar to a live performance venue, could attract a high number of visitors to the site, increasing the traffic volume on local roads. There's also concerns with noise, outdoor lighting, hours of operation. There's also concern with urban development form along the perimeter of the site would not be compatible with low-density residential. And also the staff has a concern with a 65-foot tall building in this development. We did recommend in the staff report, there's some potential changes the applicant could undertake to help address some of staff's concerns. One of those was revise the development plan to remove the 4-story multi-unit residential and commercial uses from the RN16. You can see this is on the screen, which is highlighted in orange and red. Staff is recommending that be removed from this section of the PUD plan. Next section is this again, all this is RN16. The exception is part to the left. That's CC and RN2. Staff recommends the applicant reduce the maximum building height and to remove the live entertainment venue from the use table to further narrow the scope of the uses and provide definitions of some of those uses that are being proposed. Staff also recommends clustering of more of the heavy, intense commercial uses and higher density in the existing CC and R2 zoned areas and keep the RN16 more of a mixture of housing types, low intensity. Number 4, submit a traffic impact study, peak flows for wastewater, and other proposed utility information for staff to review prior to getting to City Council. And then the applicant may want to consider withdrawing the application and using it as a concept plan due to the need for additional information for a more thorough staff review. The Plan Commission can review this concept plan and provide information and guidance it deems appropriate to the applicant. The Plan Commission wouldn't act on the concept plan, but you could provide recommendations to the applicant. Again, the applicant is asking via the PUD to write their own zones, add some uses, and change the dimensional standards. The submitted materials do not appear to meet the criteria listed above in the zoning code. Again, the plan unit development is a new tool, and this application is the first to apply the new tool. The scale of this project is very large, and staff is still learning how to review and implement the new zoning tool because this is much different than what we've had in the past. Staff recommends the Plan Commission defer this application to allow the applicant time to provide more information, including a traffic impact study, peak flows, and revise the site plan to meet the notes that staff noted in the staff report. I know it's a lot, but at the end of the day, staff's recommending to defer for additional information.
Mr. Schultz, how long is the recommended deferral?
Well, we're hoping for 30 days. I think this is a lot of stuff. The applicant's going to have a difficult time getting back within 30 days. I'll defer to him if he.
Yeah, I don't think the applicant's here.
Oh, he's not? Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
He may have some of this stuff already. I know they reached out to Emily. They started making some changes on that, but I wished he was here to speak to that. I'm not sure.
Well, it looks like he's got somebody here. Councilman Ledford, did you have something?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you identify yourself for us, please?
In Road. I'm part of the design team
Okay.
representing the client today.
Very good. Kyle, in the design of the site plan that has been presented, we've identified steep slopes. Do you know the amount of steep slopes? And in your site plan, have you calculated the city's steep slope vegetation component?
So as a part of the site plan, we've identified the 30+% slopes and tried to stay off of those with what we've drawn on the site plan. A percentage off the top of my head, I'm not sure. We do have it all drawn out in our files, but I don't have that number off the top of my head.
But the site plan reflects no development on slopes over 30?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Anderson.
I just want to clarify because the rule is 30 and that's what I heard Councilman Ledford say, but I heard 35% slope from the applicant. So do you know that the rule is 30 and not 35?
It's 30.
30%.
Okay.
Yes,
It's
sir.
different than the state. That's why I'm.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
That was our compromise.
So just to clarify in regards to staff's recommendation to defer, there were a number of things that staff wanted to be addressed. One of them was a traffic impact study. Is a recommendation from Planning Commission to defer then requiring for the applicant to come back with a traffic impact study?
Yes, for staff to read, not staff, not this staff, it'd be the Transportation Department staff to review. If they feel there's not enough information for them to review this PUD plan for adequate access on Tunnel Boulevard and Garner Street. Although other streets, this development will be accessing.
I hear that, and maybe somebody else can speak to it, but I'm trying to think back to another case ever when we held up a zoning request for a traffic impact study. I know that we've certainly required a traffic impact study to be a part of the actual permitting process, but I've never seen that requested on the zoning side of things.
And indeed, this is a new PUD tool. This is a new tool for us. It requires a traffic impact study. That's right. It requires a traffic impact study, right?
It says planning commission or city council may request it. So as part of your deferral, you can request them to submit the study, but it's not required if either body does not request it.
And the way that's written, the requirement is before zoning. I mean, if that is the case, then we need to have some bigger conversations around a zoning ordinance that says that a traffic impact study needs to be done prior to rezoning.
As part of this, we have identified, again, it's a new zoning code for all of us. And as part of this process, this is the first one out the door. We've noticed some other things we need to tweak and fix. That's one of the things we can look at.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Councilman Ledford?
Mr. Jacobson, given the lengthy concerns that have been listed, is there anything you'd like to address that you would think that a deferral would not be in order?
No, we do as a team want to formally request a deferral on this.
Okay, so we're in agreement on that. Yep. The next question, if I may, is how long?
Right.
I heard 20 minutes of concerns,
Right.
almost.
Yeah, there's a lot in there and a lot we're working through, and we've reached out to RPA and obviously want to respect and respond to the community on that. So we're working with Mr. Kenner to figure that out.
And you're working with the community intensely. Okay. And that's why they said the things about me earlier that they said. We need to make sure that happens.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
All right. You've got an opportunity to present the case. You've got 7 minutes.
So I think we just want to go ahead and do the deferral.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I just, how long, do we answer how long the defer? You can't work it out. 30 days is what you need to defer? Or I just heard you can get all that done in 30 days? And meet the community?
We're not asking for public feedback on our decision, just being clear.
Yeah.
Yet, there will be an opportunity.
So obviously there's a lot there that we're working through. Mr. Kenner's out of town at the moment, so I don't want to respond directly on his behalf, but we understand that to hit the next deadline, it's Friday of this week, which is challenging. So we are deferring to April as of right now, and we'll confirm that with Mr. Kenner when he's back in town.
Yeah, that's not, I mean, whatever the deferral you're asking for, we're going to have to know what you're asking for to do it.
Well, he's asking for 30 days. When he's saying April, he's saying 30 days.
Okay.
So we do have opposition here, and they'd like to speak. We want to make sure to give them an opportunity to. We'll circle back. Is everybody that's standing up want to talk in regards to this case? Okay, so there's only 9 minutes total. I think there's a clock right over here. Can everybody see that clock? So, yes, sir.
I'm Councilman Isaiah Hester, representing District 5. To this governing body here, to the beautiful people of District 5, thank you for your engagement. To those here from Hamilton County, I'm here today to representing the stakeholders of my district. After reviewing this proposed project, we've come to the following conclusion: this development compromises the integrity of the neighborhood. This project is not in agreement with the overall growth and plans of residents that will be impacted by this development. We're not in agreement with this project. I and the community are not for this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Monterey Tucker. I'm resident at 2035 Dogwood Drive. My name is Monterey Tucker. I'm a resident at 2035 Dogwood Drive. I'm right across the street from the development where they've already been dumping the dirt. My family, moved in 17 years ago. We raised my 2 sons. I'm a grandfather now of 1. I have another one on the way. I would like for my grandkids to be able to play in my yard instead of get ran over by another vehicle because our streets are so small. The trucks that have been coming in with the heavy construction have already tore up private driveways, my yard, and the streets. So that's one of the concerns that me and a lot of the people in our community has. I know we got a little bit of time.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Connie Morris, and I'm from the Hillsborough Heights community off of Wilcox and Tonal Boulevards. The neighbors of Eastdale have come together, and we have decided that we will respectfully ask you to deny the PUD for this area. We submitted a detailed letter I hope you got along with the petition this morning. If not, I can present it to you now. It goes over a lot of the things that Mr. Schultz went over. We have some of the same concerns. In addition to that, there has been some problem with comparing Eastdale. Eastdale is not East Chattanooga, and a lot of the things have been mentioned and brought up and have been said for East Chattanooga, not for Eastdale. We only had one meeting. The meeting was on February 27th. It was the first and only meeting that we had requested with the developer, Mike Kenner. And in addition to that, that meeting solidified us after his presentation that we still want to ask you respectfully to deny the PUD. We're concerned with preservation of community character, quality of life, property values, wildlife, and environmental concerns. That includes the high density of crowding people into the area, noise, and the crime increase. A PUD is not compatible in any way, shape, or form of our area. It's more compatible with something that's more of a commercial area, like down the Shallowford Road, Wilcox Boulevard corridor, in that area. One of the things that he mentioned, and I'm talking really fast, was an agri-hood. Agri-hood, he only allotted 6,000 square foot, which is about 1.3 acres. Doing some scientific research, it takes 0.35 acres per person per year to be required for food production, and that's only with vegetable production, nothing that will require anything derived from an animal. Utilities and infrastructure, we agree with what Mr. Schultz said. If you do a quick infrastructure reading on sanitary sewer, the city is under a consent decree for $337 million that's going to be spent. Half of it's going to go for, I guess, phase 2, working on increasing our sanitary sewer system in the area. If you do a cursory study and look at what the sanitary sewer system is based on 1,781 units. And if you average just a 3-bedroom apartment, it's 205 gallons a day. If you gross that up, it's 365 gallons a day for 1,785 units and 1.3 million gallons a day on the sanitary sewer system. And it's already old, and it may be a little outdated and decrepit. We need a traffic study. There have been several wrecks. You can't turn from Garner Road onto Tonal Boulevard in the direction of Lightfoot Mill Road. The streets are very narrow. Garner Road is very narrow. They both have ditches on both sides. We need a forestry study, stormwater study, soil study for erosion. And then it's going to have private streets, the way it's written, and no garbage service pickup. Environmental also revisited is that South Chickamauga Creek, although it is very nice and very beautiful, it's an impaired waterway by EPA 303D, and it's impaired for aquatic organisms as well as recreation. Also on the Hamilton County Water Report from October 2023, it's also at the Polymer Road section at Friar Branch, and Friar Branch is the one that's closest to us. It's impaired for exceedance of E. coli as well as dissolved oxygen, and that will kill the little bitty fishes that are in the water. It's not
Ma'am,
good for
I want to make
perk.
sure we give an opportunity for
Yeah,
everybody to be able
I
to
just want to
speak.
say thank you very much.
Thank
And we respectfully request that this is denied by the commission today. And may I submit this to you, or did you get it? I
We have
emailed it.
We do have it.
Okay, we got copies for each one of you.
You can give them to Mr. Maybe right here on the end. Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Good afternoon. I'm Janice Smith. I'm the president of North Tower Forest Community Association. And I'm here to oppose this project because we do not have what we need to have a project this big. We don't have the road structure. It cannot support what is about to happen. And I'm just asking you all to vote it down because personal testimony, Tunnel Boulevard is only 2 lanes and there's ditches on each side. We don't have the passage for such a project. And personal testimony from me and my husband almost lost our life on Tunnel Boulevard just because our car had stopped. Nobody could go around us and people were cursing us out. I had to actually call the Chattanooga Police Department to come and help us with just a broken down car. The same with emergency vehicles. They cannot pass if anybody breaks down on that 2-lane place down there. So I'm asking you all to please vote this down in honor and respect of those of us who already live there. Please take care for the people that already live there. And I'm asking you this with all my sincerity.
Thank you, ma'am.
Council, my name is Ronald Roberts, 3709 Hemingway Drive. Retirement and homes are the sum total of everything residents of Eastdale and Wilmore have worked for, with 70% of their wealth being in their homes. The accomplishments are threatened by outside gentrifiers obligated to make a profit for stockholders whose interests in our communities are purely transitory. Chattanooga Regional Planning Agency members help us protect our elderly and retirees from tax liabilities that ultimately increase beyond the normal yearly tax rates, while at the same time degrading our community quality of life. We don't want to go the way of the South Side under the code word of revitalization, while being misdirected that our quality of life could be enhanced by entertainment venues, alcohol sales, and walking paths. Enforce RN 1-6. In closing, lyrics from singer-songwriter Joni Mitchell. They put up a pink hotel, boutique, and a swinging hot spot. They paved paradise to put up a parking lot. Thank you.
My name is Benita Baker, and I'm a resident of King Oak subdivision, which is where Doolittle Street and Garner, all of that is King Oak. The development, the subdivision was built in the 1970s. It's a historic community, over 50 years old. When they built the development, the subdivision, they didn't build, my house was supposed to be a corner lot. It's supposed to be in a road going through there, which one of the lots is on the design thing. But then we go behind the 10 acres of land behind my home. That land is basically not developable for housing. It was discovered that it's part of the South Chickamauga Creek, which is a historic land trail from the Trail of Tears. The Indians walked that trail. So my opposition is that the land be rezoned to tie in with the Chattanooga Parks, city and the parks in the city, instead of one Chattanooga affordable housing. It's not, meant to be that. Back then, when we moved in the 70s, it was congested. And it's more congested now, and it's not fit for housing development. As you mentioned, the slopes, the flooding, exactly behind my house, there's caves. Our front yard is nothing but big boulders. They had to, build over that. And I think we should preserve that land and tie it in with the historic landmarks in conjunction with Preserve Chattanooga.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, we're sorry, the time for opposition's up.
So I think, we heard community feedback in the meeting that we had. I think we want to request to defer 30 days.
Thank you. So I do want to have some conversation about what we've heard from opposition, what we heard from staff, and of course, the applicants requested to defer for 30 days, but ideally what comes back before us in 30 days is, accompanied by a staff recommendation to approve or something pretty close to that, and or there's a lot more consensus from the community in regards to how it's developing. So I think as much feedback from Planning Commission at this juncture would be helpful. In regards to the traffic study, we can't start requiring traffic studies before rezoning applications or as a part of rezoning applications, because that just won't work. We haven't done that. I understand if our new zoning code is being interpreted that way, but that's a non-starter. A traffic study to do a rezoning is way different than a traffic study post-rezoning before land disturbance permit. Not to mention the fact that, we've heard the concerns from the neighborhood in regards to the infrastructure that goes to this development. But, we do live in Tennessee, and what that means is that developers can be required to do infrastructure improvements along the right-of-way adjacent to their property, but they are not required to do off-site infrastructure. And so if there's any communication coming from RPA or city council or this body that somehow this applicant's going to be triggered to do a traffic study, and then that's somehow going to impact the quality of these roads that they're referencing, that just isn't the case. So I do want to be clear as we have this discussion that we have never, in my time here, required a traffic study to be done before a zoning was approved. With that, I'd love to hear any other comments that might help staff and or the applicant. Councilman Woodford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my concern is obviously not enough communication has been completed with the community. And I thank you all for coming down here on a Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock when I'm sure you have a lot of other places you need to be. My concern is, Mr. Jacobson, is that 30 days is, you're not going to accomplish this in 30 days. I promise you, I've been doing this for a long time. And to ask these folks to come down and oversee this process to make sure that something doesn't happen, that is, I feel like there's no way in the world that's going to happen for you. So I'm going to recommend that you maybe at least do 60. I think that's a reasonable time given the complexity. When I look at this site plan, I see a lot of, it reminds me of when we did the Bend, in which we created an entire new context area, and that took a long time to get through, and it should have taken a long time to get through because it's something new. And this is introducing something that we have not seen, the community has not seen, and I just think there needs to be a whole lot of engagement here to just give it 30 days. That's, I won't be here, but I trust me, I've been down this road. Thank you.
Dr. Cottle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to commend the community on the submission of the document that you sent in. You did a lot of work on it, and it's very revealing. I've heard of Mr. Kerner. I've yet to meet him. I've talked to a few of the clergy about him showing him interest in this area, but I'm always disturbed by the fact that the community is not satisfied with the lack of communication or the amount of communication that has taken place. And I'm like Mr. Ledford, the community is definitely not happy. I really would think that Kenner would have done himself some good to be here for this kind of a project. And it just does not feel good at all. Based upon what I'm hearing from you, what I've seen from Kenner, and what I'm seeing from these individuals here, I don't think they've been given a fair shake. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lau.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I would like to echo your statements about the traffic impact study. I don't think as a part of a zoning request that we ought to set a precedent where that starts becoming required. It's I think it's a cost burden that would derail lots of good opportunities for growth for the community. That if we were requiring that, those can, depending on what they are, they can be upwards of $30,000. And I just don't see that, going for a zoning request, that adding that kind of financial burden to a soft cost stack that's just trying to figure out whether they can even purchase the property or not. I just feel like that could lock out some great opportunities for our community for the projects that need something like a PUD. And I know that this is PUD number 1 out of the gate for this new zoning for this new zoning ordinance. So we want to get this right. And I guess I just want to say, I feel like a lot of the public input that we heard is not dissimilar to many of the conversations that happen regarding the Ooltewah area or any of the other areas of town where we're seeing tremendous pressure for growth and running the risk of sounding like Mr. Reuter, I would say that growth is coming, and we do have to figure out how to accommodate it, and we have to figure out how to do that well. I think having everybody at the table to have those conversations is essential. So thank you everybody for showing up today for doing that. But we are popular. This is a beautiful area. We have so much stuff to offer. Tennessee has such a great tax environment. There are people moving here every day, and we have to figure out how to accommodate that growth in a way that makes sense for all of us long term. So thank you.
Mr. Schultz, I do have one question for you. The overall density of the total unit counts again for this PUD was what?
Roughly 1,781 units.
Okay, and sometimes when we've looked at PUDs in the past, we've asked, with certain assumptions, what would be the number of units that could be developed on the property as is? And now that we've got this already having been zoned as RN16, or the vast majority of it, and then some of it commercial, does staff have any idea of what that current, it's a large piece of property, so while that looks like a lot of units.
Would be sands the area that would be ruled out by the steep slopes?
It's going to be hard because of slopes and floodplains and stuff like that. That's why it's difficult for us.
We haven't historically subtracted for those things when.
No, I can give you a gross number, but that's not going to be the 6,000 square feet times what, 200 acres almost?
Yeah,
Did you get that number, Dan?
What is
it's
it?
about 7 units per acre for under R116.
Yeah. So
he's not just clustering all the available density today. He's asking for more density. And I think your point about the traffic study, I think there's a difference between sort of a traffic study of just trying to see how much volume of development is going onto the streets versus, I agree with you. We don't know if you need a turn lane or something else that's more of a detailed traffic study, but I think trying to have 1,800 units is a lot of development. And so I think just trying to be, I don't know that it's the same kind of traffic study, I guess is my point, is what you probably would have after it's been zoned. And we're actually just trying to figure out what improvements are needed.
And the other, so just because it's RN16, he's asking for additional uses in that zoned area, like a medical office, a school.
Well, I guess I know, I was just trying to get back to what the by right entitlements were. And it sounds like that would allow for about 1,100 units to be built by right.
It's about 100.
If all they did was try to come in and cluster what he's available to them.
Yeah.
But
It's 190 acres.
These are some of the discussions that the developer needs to have with the community. They need to understand by right what can happen tomorrow.
There you go, man, Mr. Payne.
That way, they'll have a total understanding of what they can do right now versus what this developer's proposing. So you guys have a real understanding about what could come, what is coming. So again, my recommendation would be at least 60 days because I don't think you're going to get there in 30 myself.
Councilman Ledford.
Mr. Jacobson, if I remember correctly, when we heard this case before, it was mentioned that there might have been a time restriction on the contract, but now we're at 30 days before something. Are you able to advise if something has changed?
So I think that that's part of the timing for Mr. Kennereezy on a due diligence on the contract, and there's a finite deadline to that. I don't want to speak to that in detail because I don't know what those exact dates and times are, but that is a part of the kind of the timing of this.
Understood. Thank you.
Is it possible for someone in the community to say how they feel about something?
Well, I think what the community has said is that they want us to deny it. So, well, I mean, if there's somebody in particular you want to hear from, Dr. Cottle, that's fine. But I mean, we did allow 9 minutes to opposition. What we heard pretty consistently was deny it.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying. You can deny, but what you need to understand is they can do something anyway. That's why you need to meet with them because by right, he can develop something that you may like less. And so I would think it would be wise to take a little bit of time to meet with the developer and understand what they're proposing or what their changes in their proposal would be that might accommodate you guys better. That would be how I would proceed.
Ms. Adamson.
Thank you, Chairman. So just to clarify, Brian, the 1,100 units that they can build there, the maximum height would be 35 feet, correct?
Yes, based on the current zoning, yes.
But what they're actually recommending or asking for would be something upwards of up to 65 feet, right?
For some of the structures on this site, again, this site plan is very hard for us to tell what's going where.
Right. And so I just don't think that that's a comparable building or use that needs to be out in the Eastdale area. First house I ever lived in was at 3211 Dyer Street. And, you know, Eastdale's important to me. Ooltewah's important to me too. I happen to live there now. And I don't think that you guys sound like Ooltewah. I don't think they sound like NIMBY. I think they sound like a group of folks that want to have something comparable in their neighborhood. They seem reasonable to have a conversation without having buildings that are towering over their homes that already exist there. And I also happen to be building single-family homes in Miss Janice Smith's neighborhood on Northway. So I have a heart for this area. I think it needs to be preserved for something that's comparable to that area.
All right. Does somebody want to make a motion? Do I hear a second? We'll do a roll call vote. No, any
Can we-
discussion on that?
Sure.
Mr. Lyle?
Thank you. I agree with what Mr. Payne, with what Commissioner Payne said. I mean, we've seen instances before where the developers move forward with something that is less appealing to the community than what is being presented in a PUD plan. And that ability to move forward with something that lacks community input and lacks the community conversation definitely gives me a lot of fear. And it's why I would say if there's a possibility for them to work it out, that I think the process could yield a better result. And I don't disagree that I think this is the wrong plan. I don't think this is the right plan, but I don't know that denial gets us to the right goal. And I will not vote along with denial.
Councilman Ledford?
The other day, my wife and I were talking about how many cases that I've had my eyes on. At my 10 years, we were reflecting back. It's upwards of 2,000 cases. And in a lot of those situations, I've always advised, know everything you can. I have seen communities such as Bell Mill Road in Ottawa, where the difference of maybe 40 homes has now placed a tremendous burden on the county for infrastructure. I think that it is imperative to have as much knowledge as possible, as knowledge is power. And a deferral does not mean an approval. It means you have an opportunity to learn what is by right, and it could be something you don't like. And that is a reality, and I've seen it too many times. And I just want to make sure that you all have the opportunity to know everything in the world that you can know, even future plans or plans by others that may come through. And I just want to make sure that you're granted that opportunity. So I think that is extremely important to have that opportunity to communicate before that train comes down and there's nothing that can stop it and you didn't know about it.
All right, any other discussion on that? We have a motion. It was properly seconded to deny the applicant's request. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? No. Was it just the two of y'all that voted for? Okay. Noes have it. I'll entertain another motion.
Move to defer 60 days.
We have a motion to defer for 60 days, and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We've deferred it for 60 days.
Yeah.
Hey, we were not taking a recess, so for those of you that all right, I'm calling the meeting back to I get to use that every once in a while. Thank you. All right. Back to business. I think we only have to start with a quorum, to be honest with you.
We have one.
So first item under subdivision plats and variances is HCSD-24-43. It's preliminary plat, farms at Creekside. It's plan unit development, lot 63 through 125, 900 through 901, located at 0 Mayfly Road. And this case has a staff recommendation to approve. Is there any opposition present? It's item 1 on our agenda. We have a motion to approve, and it has been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next case on the agenda is item 2. It's HCSD-24-46, and this is preliminary plat, Dallas Station subdivision, lots 1 through 54, 900 and 902, located at 7618 Middle Valley Road. This was deferred from the February 10th, 2025 meeting, and staff has recommended to defer for 30 days. Is there any opposition present? Okay, any opposition? Yes. It is a recommendation to defer for 30 days. We have a motion to defer. Has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next case is HCSD-25-1, preliminary plat, Sawyer Road subdivision, lots 1 through 112, 1001, 1006, located at 7019 Sawyer Pike, and it has a staff recommendation to approve. Is there any opposition present? And is the applicant present? Mr. Schultz?
Yes, this is Sawyer Road subdivision. It's preliminary plat. It's lots 1 through 112. This plat does have a few corrections that need to be made on, which is typical for preliminary plat. It also needs to be approved for groundwater protection for septic tank use. These are individual septic tanks. Based on that, it meets all the other requirements of the subregs, and staff recommended to approve. It's a preliminary plat.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Yes, sir. Can you turn that mic on?
Oh,
Thank you. It's on now.
Jay Floyd, Reagan Smith Engineers. Yeah, this subdivision is, most all of the area is zoned R1 now. The part that's leading in is zoned A1, but there's no homes proposed on that area. We're looking at 129 acres in this portion of the property, and we're proposing 112 lots. So it's very low density. We're preserving steep slopes and preserving buffers on the streams, and I think it's very appropriate for the site.
Thank you. It's on.
It's on. Okay, great. My name is Grace Minot. I live at 1458 Palisades Road. First off, I did want to thank the commission or the staff for the new format online with regards to the map and the cases marked. I really do appreciate that. I think that's a visual help for a lot of the public to understand where the cases are located. So I just wanted to thank the staff for that. As I got into looking at the different cases that were on the agenda for today, I was a little frustrated because of the 22 entries that were on the 3 different maps. This particular case was the only one that had the wrong staff report file linked. So it was not as easy to find the staff report for this particular case. So thankfully, the full agenda packet is also still included online, which did include some of the exhibits, which kind of brought me to why I'm here today. I guess, indeed, there are some pros for the proposed development, and I do appreciate that with regards to the number of units per the acreage. But I think my concern or my questions for today have to do a lot with the process. And also, I think specifically maybe what Mr. Schultz just mentioned was that all the other requirements are met. It would seem as if approval of a preliminary plat would mean that all of the requirements are met. So according to the exhibits that I found online, I'm just going to read off what I perceive are deficiencies in meeting the general subdivision regulations. So subdivision regulation 500.3, utilities. Item G, natural contours at 5-foot intervals or less. There are no 5-foot or any contours on any of the exhibits that were provided to the public. Item H, existing and finished contours within the area to be cut or filled shall be shown on the preliminary plat. There are no contours, again, on the exhibits. Subdivision regulations, section 500.5, road profiles, vertical road profiles of all roads to be constructed in the subdivision shall be submitted with the preliminary plat. Subdivision regulation 500.1, grading and drainage plans and hydrology report. Submit a digital copy of the proposed grading and drainage plans as well as the hydrology report with preliminary plat. If a TDEC hydrology determination has been completed, that should be included in the commissioner's packet for you to make according judgment on. Subdivision regulations 407.6, subsurface sewage disposal systems, soil survey. Hamilton County, Tennessee requires an acceptable soil survey for subdivisions using on-site subsurface sewage disposal systems before preliminary approval. This was pointed out by Groundwater Protections Department in the comments. Maybe that has been submitted, but that was not discussed just a moment ago. Subdivision regulation 408.3, fire hydrants. The location of fire hydrants shall be approved by the fire authority having jurisdiction based on the adopted IFC of the district. In the staff report, the fire marshal notes the required spacing of 500 feet between hydrants and a max distance of 200 feet from any point on street or road frontage to a hydrant. The spacing of the fire hydrants in the preliminary plat provided greatly exceed 500 feet between them, leaving many lots way beyond the 200 feet from a hydrant. There may be other deficiencies, but these are what I have found at this point. Due to these deficiencies, as well as maybe other regulations that are not met at this point, I respectfully request that you defer 30 days of the approval of this preliminary plat so that the developer can make the appropriate corrections so as to fully meet the requirements of a preliminary plat. This is not a request necessarily for denial. It is just to meet the standards of the subdivision regulations that has been put into place. And I do ask for your accountability to meet those standards. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schultz?
I will say road profiles and sewer profiles. Well, this won't have sewer profiles. Road profiles are submitted. We just don't load them up to our website because those are engineering review documents by the Transportation Department. A lot of the things are corrections that we've done this every month. The corrections are always noted on preliminary plats. Now, if the Planning Commission wants to take a different stance that everything has to be correct before this plat comes from this body, that's something what y'all need to direct us to do. I think that's, and contours are provided.
Yes.
So, and maybe the applicant can speak more to some of the stuff that, because a lot of stuff is shown on engineering plans. This is a plat, which is totally different than engineering plans.
Right. Nathan?
I just wanted to add, a lot of the information that you're talking about, staff gets ahead of time, and staff reviews ahead of time, and they provide comments to the effect, usually in the staff report. I know for a fact that groundwater gets the soil survey before preliminary plat comes through. They have to verify basically that one lot can be developed based off of the soil that was measured. So just to add clarification, so staff is looking at a lot of these things that you're talking about ahead of time and providing comments to the effect.
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say we did submit all the things that are required for the preliminary plat approval. Regarding the groundwater, a preliminary soil map was submitted and it supports what we are asking for. The final soil map will be completed prior to getting approval for this development under a land disturbance permit. We also completed a traffic study, which is not required. We just got the results of that, and the traffic study says that these roads will accommodate the requested number of lots without a problem.
Yes.
So, is there
Thank
any
you.
other questions?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. It has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Who's taking minutes today? Did you catch that?
Yeah, Nathan recused. Mr. Byrd.
All right, next case on our agenda is item 4. It's HCSD-25-3. It's preliminary plat for Tanner Mill subdivision, lots 1 through 28, located at 3406 Ottawa Ringgold Road. It has a staff recommendation to approve. Is there any opposition present? We have a motion to approve, and it has been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next case, item 5 is SDP-25-1. It's a final plat at Kingston Woods subdivision, lots 1 through 11, located at 7128 Graham Road, and has a staff recommendation to approve. Is there any opposition present? We have a motion to approve, and it has been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is item 6. It is SDP-25-2. It's preliminary plat at Fairway Meadows subdivision, lots 1 through 64, located at 1139, 1145, 1157 Shady Rest Road, and has a staff recommendation to approve. Is there any opposition present? We have a motion to approve, and it has been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Byrd recused himself. Item 7 on our agenda is SDP-25-3. It's a preliminary plat located at 2501 Chestnut subdivision, lots 1 and 2. It's located at 2501 Chestnut Street, and staff is recommended to approve with conditions. Is the applicant present? Any questions or comments in regards to the conditions? Is there any opposition present? We can go find you some.
I'd prefer not. We think we've had enough. Quick question on condition. Are we conditioning preliminary plats? Because this is we're okay with them if it's more of, they just need to get addressed for final, but conditions on preliminary plats. So it's more of a generic question, Ethan, for.
Yes, we can condition plats.
And
this is
but it's
conditioned.
not been done in a long time. On a
This
preliminary
case,
plat.
you got some road closures and stuff like that you're dealing with. That's why we're doing approval, subject to those being closed
Okay.
and abandoned.
We have a motion to approve, and it has been seconded. And that was a motion to approve the staff recommendation, which is approved with conditions, and it has been seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is SDP-25-4. It's a final plat for Davidson Meadow Phase 2 subdivision, lots 30 through 46 and 66 through 78, located at 7680 Davidson Road. Staff is recommended to approve with conditions. Is there any opposition present? And is the applicant present? And do you have any questions or concerns? Okay. We have a motion to approve. The motion needs to be, and I think what I heard was a motion to approve with conditions, and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion?
Well, there's like a couple here. Coordinate road names, addressing with GIS, zoning, make sure the correct zoning shown, and previously zoned RZ. And it's conditioned to, I think, X number of lots as well.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 9 on our agenda is SDP-25-5. It's preliminary plat at 2699 Chestnut subdivision. It's lot 4. It's located at 2699 Chestnut Street, and staff is recommended to approve. Is there any opposition present? We have a motion to approve, and it has been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10 on our agenda is STP-25-6. It's a preliminary and final plat for Scenic Ridge Phase 2 subdivision, lots 15 through 22, located at 2604 Dodds Avenue, and staff is recommended to approve. Is there any opposition present? We have a motion to approve, and it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 11 on our agenda is SDP-25-7. It's a final plat for Scenic Ridge Phase 1 subdivision, lots 3 through 15, located at 2706 Dodds Avenue, and staff is recommended to approve. Is there any opposition present? We have a motion to approve, and it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We don't have any old business because that's been withdrawn. So the first thing under new business is case 2025-0036. It's located at 1500 East 14th Street. It's an application to rezone from RN15 to TRN-3. Staff is recommended to approve the request. Is there any opposition present?
Mr. Chairman, we did receive one email in opposition, and that was basically concerns with loss of single-family character in the neighborhood.
Thank you. What's the will of the commission? We have a motion to approve, and it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 2 on our agenda is case 2025-0037. And it is located at 4314, 4320, 4326 Bonnie Oaks Drive. And staff is recommended to deny the applicant's request and approve other for rezoning from RN-1-6 to CC Commercial Corridor Zone. Is there any opposition present? And is the applicant present?
I believe she may be the applicant.
Are you the applicant? Okay, you're the owner. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah. Yeah, and staff's recommendation is to deny the CC but approve neighborhood commercial zone as CN. It's more compatible with the neighborhood of a neighborhood type commercial zone.
Okay. Thank you. Ma'am, can you come on up? Mr. Anderson? Thank you.
Brian, will the CN zone accommodate the applicant's proposed uses?
Yeah, I think she's asking for office. I'm not sure she knows really anything on the business, personal service that would be allowed.
Okay, so CN would allow everything she wants
Yes.
to do. Okay, thank you.
So staff is recommended to deny your request, but they're approving another zone that would allow you to do the business that you want to do. So I'm assuming you're fine with that?
Actually, is my plan is I have a lot of issue on that property, and I'm divorced is 6 years ago. That is belong to my ex-husband, and I get that from the board, and I get a scam. Every scam you would not count on that, and my tenant tried to sue me up for get that property free for free. And everything, and because I'm from other country, but I'm American citizen, and then send my property is empty for 4 years because my tenant tried to do everything, forbid me, and she just said like, you give me $20,000, you good to go, like, you know, they try to get for free, and then I try to do everything for make money. I'm the single mom, and for make money from the property because I cannot live there. Is I cut my yard, and the teenager they shooting each other on the school beside me, beside my house, and it's I just feel like if I turn to commercial and I build a office, like is people can lend my building, like plumbing business or insurance business and everything, then I can run the business over there. Then I think that easy to control that. Is without this, I get a scam. I will lose that property Without cannot do anything.
Right. So I think we're on the same page. What staff has recommended and what is in front of us would allow for you to do the development that you're trying to do. So this is a good thing. I think we just,
I have a friend is who are do developer. They try to take me for free property too. They say
Right.
that property no value. I give you $50,000. You walk away. Like anybody try to beat me out. What I have to do? Just tell me what I have to do with that property. For let me like
well, I think,
have something for leave.
right. So I think we're doing it. What we would be approving would be a rezoning of the property to CN, which is commercial neighborhood zone. So, and it sounds like that will give you some flexibility that you need.
Move to approve staff recommendation.
We have a motion to approve the staff's recommendation, and it has been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am. Item 3 on our agenda is mandatory referral 2025-0038, and it's the 400 block of Palmetto Street. And it's a mandatory referral for a sewer easement abandonment. Has a staff recommendation to approve. Is there any opposition present? We have a motion to approve, and it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4 is 2025-0039, and this is located at 8704 Walnut Road and unaddressed property in the 8700 block of Walnut Road. Staff has recommended to approve with conditions an applicant's request for rezoning from A1 Agricultural District to R2A Rural Residential District. I'm sorry, A1 and R2A to R1. Is there any opposition present?
Mr. Chairman, we did receive one email in opposition about topography and geological stability on this property, steep slopes.
Okay, and is the applicant present? Okay. All right, so we'll hear from staff first, then we'll hear from the applicant, then opposition.
Sure, this case 2025-39. This is a request to rezone a property that has a split zoning designation of A1 and R2A to R1 for single-family residential. It's 13.75 acres in size. The applicant's proposing 43 units. That's a density of 3.1. Looking at the zoning map, you can see everything around this property is primarily agricultural. You do have R2A along Dallas Hollow, then everything else is A1 abutting to the south, east, and west. There's been no zoning history on this particular piece of property. This is 8704 Walnut Road and 8700 block of Walnut Road. You can see to the north is single unit. To the south is single unit, and to the east and west is single unit residential. Here's a view of the site. North of the site, which is single family. South of the site, which is single family. East of the site of Daisy Dallas Road and Walnut Road, which is again single family. West of the site, single family. This is Walnut Road. Here's the site plan submitted with a rezoning request, 2 entrances in. The lots that front Walnut Road, they actually will be serviced by an alley, so it won't be individual curb cuts on the Walnut Lane or Walnut Road. There is no adopted land use plan in this area. This, again, the site is surrounded by single unit residential and agriculture uses, so the use would be compatible. Staff recommends 3 conditions, limiting the density, the number of curb cuts, and a landscape buffer to ensure compatibility. So staff recommend to approve maximum density of 43 residential lots, which is what's shown on the site plan. Also to ensure no individual curb cuts on the Walnut Road. Staff put it in the second condition, no individual driveway curb cuts. And then finally, a 20-foot landscape buffer along the Walnut Road frontage as shown on the site plan. So staff recommends approve with 3 conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Any questions for staff? All right, Mr. Price.
Thank you. Mike Price, MAP Engineers, and with allergies, I'm going to use my James Earl Jones voice. There we go. So the request here is for a single-family subdivision, and as you can see, based upon the plan that we put together, we have, I believe, put together a plan that takes into account the residents and the neighbors in the area by putting a 20-foot landscape buffer there along Walnut Road, as well as, which we didn't have to do, but we thought it was the right thing to do, and even at our own expense, to construct a private alley behind those other units that would otherwise have driveways on Walnut Road. So given the landscaping that we're doing, given the plan with just 2 cuts and a loop road coming in off of Walnut Road, we think that this is the right plan for the area. It's not overly densified. It does meet R1 zoning requirements. If you notice the lots from, say, lots 20 to 14, those lots are a little bit deeper. We have steeper slopes in those areas, so that's why those lots are deeper than what you would see normally in other areas. Sewer is available in the area, and we would plan on tying into that. There is a creek that runs parallel with Daisy Dallas Road, and we've taken into account the stream buffer requirements as it relates to that and the placement of our retention pond. So if there's any questions, happy to answer those, but I think it's a pretty straightforward, and hopefully you'll agree, a well thought out plan.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Any questions for Mr. Price? Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Price, is the stream waters of the state?
It is.
Thank you. So it has a requirement of 60?
They vary, 60-foot buffers based upon drainage areas. Some are 30. I believe in this instance, it was don't hold me to this, could be wrong, but I got a 50-50 chance of getting it right because it's either 30 or 60. But I was thinking it's a 30-foot buffer.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions? All right, Mr. Price, we'll hear from opposition.
Joe Michaud, 8512 Daisy Dallas, immediately at the intersection. My concern is relating to the water buffer, specifically that vacant lot across from me of 8517 floods frequently. Even with this buffer, I'm concerned that we'll see increased flooding in that lot, as well as just significant water retention around that intersection. A lot of the homes along this street were built a long time ago. My neighbor specifically, his house was built over 100 years ago. Increases in groundwater will have impacts on people's basement as well as crawl spaces, and this could impact just the people around us. So we'd love to have a conversation and hear more about the plans for that water retention, but those are my concerns right now.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Rebecca O'Brien at 8706 Walnut Road. And I had 2 things that I just wanted to bring up. The first, it sounds like is might not impact things, but it does have steep slopes above 25% due to a significant part of the property. And so my understanding was that meant it should be classified as level 1 instead of 2 or 3, but, and I brought some maps that demonstrate where those high slope areas are. And then the one other thing that I wanted to bring up, and I don't know if this impacts the zoning at all, but there is sinkhole activity in the area. So I don't know if there's any sort of testing that would need to be required just to prevent building over sinkholes if any of those properties need to be avoided. And that's all. Thank you.
Same thing we're concerned about, the Walnut Road.
Can you state your name and address for the record?
It's Donald England. We live at 8644 Walnut Road. We're right beside the property he's going to build on.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we're concerned about the traffic mainly on Walnut Road. It's terrible. In Daisy Dallas, they're already building apartments and houses on the corner of Daisy Dallas and Walnut. The traffic's just getting worse every day. And I had some questions about, I have a driveway on the south side of the property. And I'm wondering about them driving on it and tearing it up. And I want to see that they keep the water and the mud off of it. I'm wondering if there's going to build a fence or anything up there. I've lived there 60 years, growed up there, and it's really expensive to keep this driveway fixed. And I'm just wondering if they're going to be driving on that with equipment and everything.
We'll ask those questions. Thank you.
So with the conditions that, or concerns that I heard brought up, one was regarding flooding. We are providing a stormwater detention facility that will address both water quality as well as stormwater runoff for the required storm events between the 1 and 100-year storm event. There was a question about sinkholes. I don't think that that's a zoning condition. It is an engineering issue to be resolved as it relates to the plan. With regards to traffic, I will say that when I was out here posting signs, that during the 15 minutes that I was out there, I believe 2 cars passed me while I was out that way. So I don't believe traffic is an issue on this particular road. And as it relates to the gentleman's property there to the south where there is a private drive, we do not plan on accessing or getting onto anyone else's property or that drive in relation to providing construction access or any other type of access as it relates to how this property might develop. So if there's any other questions, happy to answer those.
Thank you.
Mike, have you determined where your construction entrance will be? Just out of curiosity.
I would anticipate that we will be utilizing the existing driveway, which is more towards the center of the property as it relates to construction access going on. Yes, sir.
And you're good with the conditions? Staff?
We are. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? What's the will of the commission? We have a motion to approve and it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next case is item 5 on our agenda. It's case 2025-0040, and it's located at 7210 Noah Reed Road. Staff is recommended to approve an applicant's request to rezone from RN-6 and CN-2 to RN-1-3 residential neighborhood zone. Is there any opposition present? You're here in opposition. And is the applicant present? Mr. Price? All right, Mr. Schultz?
Sure. This is case 2025-40. This is a request to rezone a parcel, has split zoning designation of CNT and RN-16 to RN-13. Proposed use is single unit detached residential. Number of acres is 2.24. Number of units proposed is 18. That's a density of 8 dwelling units per acre. See, looking at the zoning map, there's a mixture of zones in this area from RN-16 to RN-2. To the west, CN and CNT, and in the south, you have CC and RN-3. A portion of this site was rezoned in 1997 to 01 with conditions, but generally that's been the only zoning history on this particular property from 97. This is a vacant piece of property. Actually, I think it has a single family home on it, but to the north is single unit residential. To the east is single unit. To the south is office and apartments. And to the west is commercial and offices. And then to the north west is townhomes. Here's a view of the site from Noah Reed Road, looking towards Shallowford. The site's on the left-hand side. This is a site from Shallowford Road. Northwest of the site, those are the townhomes that are adjacent to this property. This is south of the site, which is office. East of the site, duplex. This is west of the site, the commercial medical office complex. This property is in the Shallowford Road Lee Highway Plan, which was adopted in 2005, and it recommends office and single unit residential for this property. There's a closer view of the plan recommendation. You see it does recommend office and residential. Here's a view of the site plan that was submitted with a request, one entry off Noah Reed Road into 18 townhome development, single family detached development. This site is surrounded by a mix of residential and non-residential land uses. The proposed use of single family would be compatible. It is compatible with adopted land use plan. However, the RN-13 would introduce a smaller lot size to the area. Staff did also have a concern with the driveway access and its impact on adjacent properties to the east in terms of light pollution. So staff recommend to approve with one condition, a 10-foot type R landscape buffer on the southern rear property line. And that's again through here to protect light pollution on those adjacent single family dwellings. The staff recommends to approve with one condition.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Any questions for staff? Mr. Price?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if at this point, if it's appropriate or not, there's a second request that comes with this that is regarding the abandonment of some right-of-way, which would help make this project a more viable and achieve the goals of which the developer and I think the community would like to see. So I would just point that out as this discussion goes on, that there is a associate zoning case or abandonment case that comes up. So the request is for 18 single-family homes to be constructed here off Noah Reed Road with a single entrance. We will provide landscaping there along Noah Reed Road. As part of the improvements to this development, we will also be widening Noah Reed Road and installing sidewalks down Noah Reed Road. These homes are going to be 900 to 1,100 square feet, again, masonry structures. The idea is to be able to put these on single-family lots. It will be a rental community starting out, but in the long term, we want the ability to be able to sell these homes if and when the point comes that Mr. Timoshuk would like to do so. We're willing to make it a condition that there be no more than 18 homes and that they do be single-family, and that all parking would be located in the rear of the development. Those are some of the items that I understand that Councilwoman Burrs has worked through in some discussions with the community. There may be other concerns that may be outside of our ability to impact, one being the intersection of Shallowford Road and Noah Reed Road. Currently, the way it is set up, you have that intersection is maybe not quite aligned in the way that some of the residents feel that it should be, but that is not anything that we can really address as it relates to that intersection. But we'll certainly be a proponent to whatever the community is wanting to see, and hopefully then the Chattanooga Transportation Department can address it in whatever ways that they see fit, mainly just being restriped from what I understand. If there's any other questions, happy to answer those from there.
Mr. Anderson?
Ethan knows what I'm going to say. The Chattanooga does not have a Department of Transportation. We have an engineering division that handles transportation issues in the Department of Public Works.
Yeah, I know it's the CDOT in its previous
Nope,
name.
don't say it again.
We don't have that.
It's the problem is that the Chattanooga, however you want to call it, who's over cars.
Public Works.
They've changed names so many times, I can't keep up with it. So.
What Mr. Anderson really wants is for you to take pictures every time you see the CDOT emblem on a vehicle and text it to him. He loves getting those.
Yeah.
There are.
Yeah.
We're just trying to help you remember for next time.
I appreciate that. As I get older and my memory is not as sharp as it once was, I need all the help I can get.
Councilman Ledford?
Thank you, Chairman. Brian, in CNT, we could have a variety of businesses, vape shops, gas stations. Am I hitting on all cylinders?
Yeah, anything that's a transition commercial type.
So the
neighborhood
fact that
type
we're
zone.
not seeing solid concrete in parking lots and a large grassy area, the sidewalks is that conditioned in, Mike, or is that just a self-condition?
The reality is that the traffic engineers in Public Works will require us to put in a sidewalk, but we don't mind that certainly being a condition, as that just further solidifies to the community that we're going to do what needs to be done.
Yeah, I'm glad to see the lighting was addressed in the buffer. I think this is actually a pretty good choice. I really thought this was going to turn into a very, honestly, a strip mall in the years watching it. So I'm actually happy to see such green space and sidewalks, and I think it was actually a pretty good plan. So
thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, that may be a good way to segue into the next case, which is the EMR. Staff had a recommendation to deny that, and basically that was coming from discussions with Transportation Department or Public Works, I should say. Sorry, Chris, Public Works, and that. Yes, I know, and that dealing with the sidewalk, and so we may want to talk about that case as well. That's been coming up here about sidewalks. Sure. So the next case is a partial abandonment of the existing right-of-way along Noah Reed Road. It's highlighted here in sort of like the faint blue section here. That's the part of the applicant's requesting to be abandoned. Again, same property. We'll go through all the pictures again. Here's the view of somewhere through, I guess, along this ditch lines where the proposal is being recommended to be abandoned. Here's a site plan submitted with the request. The hatched area is what's the applicant's requesting to be abandoned and be given to the developer to develop his project. another view of the site. Based on our discussions with other staff, there is a significant public interest to retain the right-of-way to provide a future sidewalk connections from Shalford Road along Noah Reed Road. This right-of-way also provides land area for existing and future public infrastructure at this location. Yes, the site plan depicts a sidewalk on private property connecting through the development, but this is not a public sidewalk, nor does it make the connection to the existing sidewalk on Shalford Road. This request does not meet the City of Chattanooga right-of-way closure and abandonment policy, so staff recommended to deny the partial abandonment.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Mr. Price.
Correct. The site plan that we have shows an internal sidewalk, which we plan to construct as part of the development, but we also plan to construct a sidewalk along Noah Reed Road. I would also add that Noah Reed Road has an inordinately wide right-of-way, and what we are proposing is to take it to a width no less than 55 feet. A standard right-of-way width is 50 feet. It does widen out as it gets closer to Shalford Road. But given that we're going to be widening the road, constructing sidewalks, and we'd like to have the ability to have this right-of-way where it encroaches into the property dedicated back to us to be able to construct the landscaping, the berms, and the internal sidewalks, it's necessary for us to have that additional right-of-way. So we think that at the end of the day, this can be a win-win for all parties in that the community gets a sidewalk, we get the landscaping and the buffers, and everyone gets to see an upgrade in how we can develop this site that otherwise we would not be able to do if we don't get the right-of-way. So if there's any questions to that, happy to answer those.
I have a question. You're going to build two sidewalks, the one sidewalk being what will be dedicated to the city?
Correct.
And that will meet the standards that they're looking for in terms of the sidewalk that the city requires?
Correct. It will be one that will most likely, as we go through the conversation with Public Works, probably will have a verge, and then even though it's not shown here, but we would probably have street trees that would be associated with that as well.
And will that be on the right of way that you're giving, that they're giving to you?
That would be on the right of way that the city would retain and not what we were asking for.
Councilman Ledford. We want to hear from Councilwoman Burrs, and there's a gentleman here that would like to speak as well.
Thank you. Nice to see everybody today. I want to first thank Mike Price for meeting with us, and then the time that the neighborhood, all of the folks that are here from the neighborhood that we talked to, for working with them and addressing all of the issues that they had a concern about. So thank you for that. Also, I know one more issue that came up last week was the backside of the property, and I appreciate you addressing the boundary on the backside of the property as well, because that was another issue for the people that live on the backside of the property, because they enjoyed the privacy for all this time, because it's been like woods. So I know that they appreciate having that added as a condition. The only other questions that were on our checklist that I want to address, and I guess why Mike is here, is just how will they have city garbage? They won't have city garbage, right? So what's that going to look like as far as garbage pickup? Where's the dumpster going to be, and when is garbage going to be picked up? Because if it's going to be something in the middle of the night, I think I'd like to put that as a condition as well. Okay. Other than that, I think that everything that the neighborhood has addressed has been covered as a condition. I'm just looking over my list really quickly. And unless the commission has any questions for me, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm Gary Scott. I live on Laramie Circle, which is the other side of Noah Reed Road from this property. My main concern pertains to the abandonment of the part of the right-of-way for Noah Reed Road. It's a very busy road. It's very narrow right now. It is in need of widening. I think that bringing it down to 55 feet doesn't leave us enough future flexibility for what might be needed coming up to that intersection with Shalford. It's a very busy intersection. cars. There's lots of delivery truck traffic on that road. So it just doesn't seem to me to be a good idea to narrow it down to 55 feet at that point. And it must have been set at a larger width for some reason when it was first laid out. So that's my main concern. I do also have some concern about adding this rental property in close vicinity to our subdivision of Friar Branch, which is almost all, with the exception of about 3 units, is all privately owned townhomes. So there's a concern there for losing property value as well. I don't know, I was not aware of whether there were going to be, for these homes, I would ask whether each of these proposed homes will have garages or if it's just parking in front of the units. And I didn't know until just now the size of the unit houses that were being proposed. So that question has already been answered. I'm confused as to why they would not have city garbage pickup. I mean, it's within the city limits, so I don't understand that. Maybe someone could help me understand that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Price? Sure.
Sorry about that. The one thing that I did leave out, and I know this body doesn't make decisions on traffic management, but I did put a request in 2 weeks ago to the traffic engineer to study that road because there was so many questions about the flow of traffic at that intersection. It is a dangerous intersection. There's some other plans up at Precept Ministries that's going to be happening over probably the next 2 years, which is going to have a lot of impact on that road. So that request has already been made and evaluation is already in the works through the traffic engineer to study that intersection and that road.
Thank you. Mr. Price?
Thank you. So there will be a dumpster pad and city garbage service that will be providing for private garbage service, which will be happening here for these 18 homes on the property. The abandonment of the right-of-way, while 55 feet, that is the minimum right-of-way width. It approximately is about 70 feet in width when you get to Shallowford Road at the traffic signal, which has 3 lanes, 2 exiting out on the Shallowford Road and 1 coming in. I do not believe that this will create any loss of property values. As a matter of fact, I would see that this would be an increase in property values versus if there was some sort of commercial use that would be going in nearby a residential development such as this. There will be no garages. This is surface parking in the rear out of this. And again, we intentionally place those in the rear so as to screen those off. And then, of course, we also showed on our plans a type C landscaping buffer in the rear. So we believe that this, again, is the best plan for this particular site. And hopefully, if you have see the same, that you would support this. If there's any questions, happy to answer those.
Thank you. Councilman Ledford?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilwoman Burrs, thank you for working so diligently with the community especially on the conditions. I would like to recommend something that can be worked out before they hear this at council next month. It's going to take some getting used to. And that is the operating hours for pickup. I think that's something that they can work out definitely before council meeting and planning and zoning, whoever may be chairing that.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would say one thing, and I don't know if this is the reason, but at one point, Noah Reed used to be a connector road between Bonnie Oaks and Shallowford Road. It no longer does that, but that might be why the original right-of-way was so much larger, So I don't think it impacts this at all, for sure.
Thank you. Any other questions? What's the will of the commission?
Second.
In regards to case 2025-0040, on the application to rezone, we have a motion to approve and has been properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, can staff ask a question?
Yes.
Is it with conditions, additional conditions, or with the staff? Staff only had 1 condition, so I've heard several conditions being. Okay, that was parking to the rear, no more than 18 units. the landscape buffer,
Sidewalks.
sidewalks. Okay.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And in regards to case 2025-0041, it's the right-of-way abandonment. It has a staff recommendation to deny. What's the will of the commissioner? We have a motion to approve, and it has been seconded. Any discussion? They have already said it. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Price. Next case on our agenda is item 7. It's case 2025-0042. It's located at 1540 Dallas Lake Road. And it's an application to rezone from R5 to R2, and staff is recommended to deny the applicant's request. Is there any opposition present? Is the applicant present? All right. Mr. Schultz.
Yeah, so this is a request, 2025-42. This is a request to rezone from R5 to R2 for a proposed use of a duplex. It's roughly half an acre in size, 2 units, a density of 4 dwelling units per acre. Looking at the zoning map, there's a mixture of residential zones in this area, but abutting it to the east and west is R5 and A1. To the north is A1 and R5, and then to the south along North Chester Road is R2A. This site was rezoned from A1 to R5 in 1995. Here's a view of the lot. To the north is single unit residential and a manufactured home. To the west is manufactured home, and to the east is single unit residential. And to the south is single unit residential. Even though that's zoned R2A, it is all single unit residential. Here's a view of the site. North of the site. Southeast of the site. East of the site, you can see some single wide manufactured homes, which is where the R5 zoning is located at. West of the site. Here's a site plan that's submitted with a request. This is a rendering of what could potentially look like of a duplex on this property. This request will introduce a new development form in a higher density into the area. There's no land use plan to support a higher density at this location. Would set the precedent for future requests. So staff recommended to deny this request for R2 at this location.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Can the applicant come up, and are there any questions for staff?
We're worried about the precedent this might set. Is that what you're saying?
Staff was worried. There was other things as well.
I kind of like the precedent this might set.
Okay, then you make up.
Yes. So you can just state your name and address for the record and the reason for your request.
My name is Andres Garcia, and this is for 5054 Dallas Lake Road. I just want to build. If it's possible, fine, and if it's not, then I'll just build one house.
Thank you. Do you have a question? Mr. Anderson?
I have a statement and a motion. I do not believe that the building of one duplex that will house 2 families, not one, will create any detriment for this area. Therefore, I'm moving to approve.
Well, we had a motion and a couple seconds. Mr. Genway?
I was just going to say, I understand where staff's coming from on this. We try to follow precedent and when there's not a plan, but to me, this only improves the community. So I'm going to vote to support this.
Do you have a motion and it was properly seconded? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. This will go on to city council, so county commission, make sure to follow those dates.
This will go to the county commission.
Yes.
There's a sheet back there that has the next meeting.
Next item on the agenda is item 8. It's case 2025-0043. It's located at 4821 Webb Street, and Staff has recommended to deny an applicant's request for rezoning from RN-1-6 to RN-1-5. Is there any opposition present? Is the applicant present? Thank you. Mr. Schultz.
Yeah, this is case 2025-43. We have seen this case before, but not for this zone. The applicant is requesting to rezone from RN-16 to RN-15, proposed single unit detached residential. It's roughly 2 acres in size. Proposed units 10, that's a density of 5 dwelling units per acre. They're looking at the zoning map. You have a history of PUDs at this location along Webb Road, but everything abutting this property currently is zoned RN-16, what would have been the R1 zone. You have an open space zone directly across this street from this property. In 2024, there was a request to rezone this from R1 to RN1, it should be RN13. Staff recommended to deny. Planning Commission recommended to approve with the condition of 5 dwelling units per acre. The application was ultimately withdrawn at the City Council. This looking at the adjacent densities of those existing PUDs that you see along Webb Road. It's very low density in this location. River Rock Cove is to the south, it's 2 dwelling units per acre. To the north, Waterstone Ridge is 2.5. And then to the northwest, Windward Point is 2.9. So those densities are fairly low. Again, this is proposed at 5 dwelling units per acre. Here's a view of the property itself. It's a single family dwelling. To the north is single unit detached and parkland. To the northwest is single unit residential. You have a community lot to the west to this side, which is part of the PUD. Then a community lot to the south, which is part of the PUD to the southeast. And then you have single unit residential. Here's a view of the site. You can see the single family residential behind it. Another view of the site. Northeast of the site. North of the site, which is that parkland or open space. And this is south of the site. Again, those pictures I'm showing are all in a PUD. This is east of the site, another PUD. This is looking at Webb Road sides, the sites on your right-hand side. This is in the Highway 58 community plan, which recommends low density residential. Here's a closer view of that, which is typically 1 to 3 dwelling units per acre. Here's the site plan that was submitted with this request. You see it's one curb cut off of Webb Road into a big cul-de-sac. This request is not compatible with adjacent density. It's not compatible with density listed in the Highway 58 plan. The RN16 is more appropriate because the lot sizes, lot widths, and density would be more compatible with adjacent suburban residential development form along Webb Road. So staff recommends to deny this request.
Any questions for staff?
I do. How many could they build with the current or RN16? What could they do there?
Probably it's 2 acres. I have to figure that out. It's about, I'll give you gross, about 12 probably.
Commissioner Highlander.
Thank you. This is in the city of Chattanooga, but it's also in my county district. And the staff is correct that those are fairly large lots. The PUD is allowed more than R1 density stands, but the community there, I've had 2 or 3 people reach out to me in that community, and they said they would like to maintain the integrity of their community, and they feel like this will change it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Joseph Ingram, Ingram Goer and Associates. So we approved, this commission approved this last November, I guess. And just by luck of the draw, I was out of town when it hit the city council, and Councilman Smith was concerned about the RN3. We were looking at 11 lots, so we conditioned it to 10 lots, which the RN15 fits. We've had a ton of conversations with Councilman Smith, and you could see we would have, everything around us is an RN16 PUD. And you could see the complications from the first case today, how complicated the new PUD is. So we really didn't see a way forward trying to match the zoning. So this RN15 is 5 units per acre. If you look, yeah, there's open space out there, but all the lots are the same size as these in the PUDs. The rest of the units around here are the same size lots as an RN15. Councilman Smith has told us that he was fine going forward with this. I have it in writing, even though he won't be there. But this is just, we're bringing it back. We conditioned it on 10, so we came back with because he thought RN15 would be a little less intrusive to the neighborhood. you know, and it just, we don't see a way forward to do an RN16 PUD with match the neighborhood just because they're, like Brian says, we're trying to figure it out. And so this is just, here's the same request that you approved with what the conditions were. The last one had 11, we conditioned it to 10. This one has 10.
Any questions? Do we have any opposition here?
Oh, and we didn't have opposition to city council either.
Okay. What's the will of the commission? We have a motion to approve. It has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next case is item 9. It's case 2025-0044. It's located at 1000 West 19th Street. It's an application to rezone from IH to CX-12, and staff is recommended to approve. Is there any opposition present?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve, and it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next case on the agenda is item 10. It's case 2025-0046. It's located at 5281 Usher Drive, and it's an application to rezone from RN 1-5 to RN-2, and staff is recommended to approve. Is there any opposition present? We have a motion to approve, and it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 11. I'm sorry? Yep. We are actually, whoever made that motion, the motion to defer, if you'd like to call it back, we can. And we can,
Anyone on the prevailing side can bring it back.
we can actually hear it again if you want to. And since Councilman Ledford's still here, he can coach me through the Roberts rules on that. Anybody want to do that? All right. We do have on our agenda a resolution and amendments, 2 of them listed here. And we have deferred. The Chattanooga-Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission did defer the Plan Hamilton. And is there anybody wishing to speak on that? Are you wishing to speak on that? Which case was it?
We approved it early on.
Which one?
38. Yeah, we did that early after, yeah, it's been approved.
Okay, so in regards to these resolutions and amendments, is anybody wishing to speak on these? Besides Dan?
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay, so Dan, you're welcome to speak on them. Would you like to?
I would.
Okay.
At least on the Plan Hamilton resolution. Again, really want our planning commissioners to spend some time with the Plan Hamilton documents, listen to your friends and family and colleagues, and please give me any questions or thoughts that you may have in the next coming weeks so we can address them and answer your questions. Again, as I said at the work session, absolutely, there's been a lot of important questions in the Plan Hamilton or a lot of important points and information. We've spent 2 years working on this. But again, in my mind, this is going to come down to investments in infrastructure. This plan is trying to set us up to make big investments in infrastructure in the coming decade. We have real road needs, and those needs, be it a traffic study or not, they need money to actually build them. So it's doing the studies and the plans are wonderful. I love planning, but in the end, we need a whole lot more money in the city and the county to work on roads for many years in the future. And so again, I just would, please, if you have any thoughts about the plans, let us know. I'm happy to talk to you individually or anything else. Thank you.
Mr. Genway.
I want to just make a motion to defer to April.
Second.
We have a motion to defer to April, and it has been properly seconded. I do have a question. At lunch, we talked about having a meeting between now and April. So is it just another work session between now and April?
So,
Because it will not be on our agenda in the meantime?
so my thought is to defer it to the regular April meeting.
Mhm.
And then we can discuss over the next week whether we're going to have a special session. And then on the regularly scheduled April meeting, we could defer to that special date if we need to.
Okay, that's great. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Genway. And a resolution to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38, Chattanooga zoning regulations. Is there any opposition present?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve, and it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Besides Dan, is there any staff updates?
Well, I have one, it's not really an update, it's to thank Councilman Ledford for all his years of service on Planning Commission. He's
Yeah, no
kept
doubt.
me on my toes, and I will say, a lot of stuff I do in the presentations because I'm going to try to anticipate what questions he's going to ask me. So that's why the presentation sometimes is really long. I try to anticipate his questions.
I have
He's gonna be
literally,
missed.
on Tuesdays after planning commission, my whole left side hurts, and I realize, because I'm always looking to my right. This is the only view anybody would ever get from me. Councilman Ledford? Councilman Ledford? Councilman Ledford? It's been great. We do have time on the agenda for public comments on non-agenda items. Is there any? Is it non-agenda?
Hello again. My name is Grace Minot. I live at 1458 Palisades Road. I did just want to come and follow up, partly in connection to my speaking earlier, but also just in part to a lot of frustrations that I've heard from public attending meetings, after meetings, here, there, and everywhere in between, is kind of, I guess, relates to the disadvantage that the public feels when they're coming to the meetings. And I think that very similar to a lot of the comments that I made earlier, is that we are basing a lot of our impression about the cases based on what we see online. If we are not provided all of the engineering plans, everything else that you base your opinions on, or the staff bases their opinions on, we are coming uninformed and not properly informed as you are. And I kind of feel like we should all be coming to the table equally informed and at the same advantage on an equal basis. I guess along those lines, we are now in a digital age, so providing all of the files that an applicant submits is not difficult anymore. And it does not require much more work to add those files in to have a fully encompassing packet. And so I just would ask that the packets do reflect everything that is submitted by the applicant so that we can come to the table just as informed as you are and maybe take less of your time asking questions for things that may have already been taken care of. Along those lines, also thinking about the timeframe of cutoff for corrections. I think it's great that the staff does dedicate a lot of their times to reviewing these cases. They come up with recommendations and things that need to be corrected. But that report is then posted online. This public sees that and sees that maybe there are some things that aren't done or corrected. If that report is not updated with the things that have been corrected, again, we're coming to the table uninformed. So for the sake of the public, for the sake of everyone here at these meetings, it just would really be appreciated if there is a strict cutoff of corrections for an applicant for a case so that we can come with the time that we spend having looked at this ahead of time, coming in just as you do, giving our time to feel like it's an equal playing field. We really do appreciate your time on this commission, but I think we also want to feel respected by given the proper information that you have all received or the staff has all received. And I think there's a lot of people in the public that are very capable of looking at these engineering plans and understanding. And given all that information, I think the public would have more trust in the process, in the people that are here representing. So thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, can I give a quick update too? On our website, she's correct. We do have a lot of stuff online. Just give you an example of what happens when we have a lot of stuff online. Our applications are normally put online as well. On that application, it has the applicant's email address. And we've been hit with spam the past couple of months for emails. Actually, two of them are here today. One of them was on the duplex. They got an email saying it was from Dan that our fee was $10,000 for a zoning case. Luckily, the applicants knew that. I knew enough to call us, say that's not correct. So we got to be aware of putting everything online. That does happen quite a bit. And it's happened frequently past 2 or 3 months. So we're now going to take our applications down from the website. There's really no need. If somebody needs the application, they can call us. We're glad to share it. But we have found that's been a pretty big uptick the past couple months of sending out letters that look official from Dan. And the fees have almost tripled of what we normally charge. Just make you all aware of that.
I'll add that, the other comment was that engineering documents and those sorts of things be reviewed by the public at large. That's not the way our codes read. The way our codes read are that developers submit the plans to the city. The city has staff that are trained in interpreting the regulations that are in place and advising planning commission in regards to whether those meet regulation or not. On a preliminary and a final plat, the public can come in opposition, but at the end of the day, the onus is on the city and the county and those departments to have properly reviewed those documents. We would not weigh heavily or at all public comment in regards to their engineering thoughts and think so's on a preliminary plat or a final plat. So that process is happening. Our government's doing it. The same is true on state permits, transportation related stuff. I mean, just across the board, there's hundreds of people working in our city and county government that are trained in how to do the work that you're asking. Has it been done? And yes, it is being done. It is not published to the public because we're not making our decisions based on a public input on whether or not that's met the regulations or not. We're making our decisions based on whether or not the county says it's been done correct or the city has done it correctly.
So just a thought for the sake of privacy and protecting the privacy of the applicant. I know that in other municipalities that applications that are posted for the public, that the contact information is redacted. So there is that potential that you can redact information to protect the privacy, but still engage the public in the process. Regarding engaging the public in the process, I actually would like to thank municipalities and as well as you all for including information to the public, because actually the public can find discrepancies. They can find significant errors, i.e. two slopes by engineers that we are not certified to be engineers, but we're very capable of finding those discrepancies and those errors. Bringing those to the table before something gets decided on and before it gets too farther along saves cost and saves time for everyone. So it is very much to the advantage of the commission, of the staff, of the engineers, of the applicants, and the public for this information to stay in the public eye. Thank you.
Ma'am, did you have comments?
Janice Gooden. When I heard the announcement that Councilman Ledford would not be returning, I decided to stay till the end of the meeting to express my appreciation for your leadership. You might not know it, but I consider you an unofficial mentor. And I've learned a lot just from watching. And I look forward to seeing what comes next.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd also just like to say, Councilman Ledford, I remember the phone call when I first talked to you and you told me, you better come here and do good things. I'll just summarize it in that, not be an idiot. Hopefully it's been 3 years and we're still working on it. I do just want to say, we have excellent staff. And as I look at these packages and I think about Karen and Brian's experience and Emily's and Trina and all the people behind them, the fire marshals, the city and county staff, I'm very thankful. I mean, I don't even half the time, I just have so much trust, not just in our staff, but in city and county government staff. So I think we do have a lot of great staff, and I appreciate you kind of pointing out how the system works. And again, we do need more money for infrastructure.
I feel like there's going to be a new word. It was like the D word or the S word, or never ever used here. But the I word is going to quickly make the list. Like, stop it. Can I get approval of the Planning Commission minutes of February 10th? Thank you. So we have a motion on the minutes. Did you have a comment? With that correction, can I get a motion to approve? Chairman. We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Ledford.
Can I have this fancy placard?
Is that all you wanted?
And this ashtray and this lamp, and if anybody's following that. Let me just say, it has been an honor. I consider everyone